Welcome back to Two Beards and a Board Game. Today we have our newest Kickstarter edition, Big Monster.
Yeah, it's a French company called Explore 8, and it plays 2 to 6, 10 plus people, and 25 minutes long.
Yep. This is the Kickstarter edition. It's got some unlocked stretch goals in it in the form of some new little player characters and tiles. This is a very French company. This is probably the very first rule book in a game I've ever gotten where the French or the non-English rules were first. And all of the correspondence I got from them was in French. So I had no idea what was going on for most of the campaign. And the only reason I knew that I was even getting this was because of the Explore 8 logo in the shipping notification. So that's cool. But this is a tile drafting game that ends up playing a little bit like dominoes.
Yeah, where you have to, after you select your tile, it needs to be played in a legal position, which is either right way up at least. Yep. Some tiles can go sideways, but at least touching one full side, or half of a side, I guess. If the tiles are shaped like dominoes, so they're rectangular and long. So if you were to, in your mind visualize it, be divided in half, it has to at least be touching half of the tile.
Yeah, and to be honest, I Kickstarter a lot of games, and so I had little to no idea what to expect. Again, especially because there was a lot of the correspondence from this was in French. And so while the campaign, there was a lot of it in English, and I read a little bit about the game. Typically on Kickstarter, if a game says it's going to play about 6 people and it's been funded quickly, I have a tendency just to kick it because we have a big game group and we like a lot of different games. And when we first opened up the box and I first looked at the rules and what was going on, I was pretty skeptical about whether or not I was going to enjoy this game.
Right.
There's a lot of punch-outs. This entire game consists of punch-outs and tiles and going through the rule book, which in the end worked out okay. It looked really convoluted. Especially because we initially played with just Charlie and I, and this game plays in 3 different ways. There's just a 2 to 6, well, I'm going to say 3 to 6 player free-for-all mode,
right,
which is probably, I'm going to say, the best way to play the game. Because that's got your full-on tile drafting, and then your scoring at the end, and then you can play it as a teams. And that's okay, we haven't played a team game yet, and the way that works is you still got your drafting mode, but then it's kind of weird because at the end of that game you're still playing individually, but then at the end you take the lowest teammate's score and that's the team score.
Right, I mean I've seen some things do it that way. I really see this game as a game you could house rule a lot of things just to play it differently.
Yeah.
In that instance where your team score is your lowest teammate, you could take the sum of those and then that is and use that as your total for which team wins. There's the way you draft is a little bit different than most games. Most games when you draft it's either a left, right, left or some sort of a cross or whatever. This one is essentially by rule a free-for-all draft. So if you're drafting, you start with 10 tiles, you take one, set it down, and you put it on in front of another player that does not have a stack.
Yes.
So that kind of plays into, you can feed your teammate if you can kind of know what they're trying to do.
Yes.
Or essentially screw someone over or try to get in front of another teammate. So that aspect I understand. If you were doing a free-for-all, I would almost want to do a left pass around and then a right pass around.
Yeah, and you could definitely do that. You could house rule that because it's a pick a tile, play a tile. So every player is going to have a character. At the beginning of the game, you get 2 characters to choose from, and that essentially starts your domino board. And so your character will have abilities, and so that's going to kind of dictate what kind of tiles you want to use. And then there's little crystal patterns as well that you try to match up to get points. And so you're going to pick a tile and then you're going to play a tile. So you're going to be able to see as the game progresses what other people are going for. So that's going to play in if you do go with you're going to put your stack in front of people, you're going to know what's in your stack. So you can strategically, if you're playing teams, put that stack in front of Charlie because he's going for the specific maybe swamp monsters, and I've got a good swamp monster in my stack. I'm going to put that in front of him. Or, maybe you don't want them to get that.
Yeah, it's essentially you can try to feed your teammate the rare cards.
Right.
Or know that, for instance, there's a monster you need a left side and a right side.
Yes.
I don't have that. That person just laid the tail of the head. I'm giving them my stack because then they can't complete that monster, because if you don't complete them, he's worth nothing.
Right. So there's a little bit of strategy involved in the actual drafting aspect of the game. When you play 2 players... I think you call it more of a Winchester style
I think it's referred to a Winchester draft. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's played a lot in Magic the Gathering when you do a draft, where essentially instead of having a pack in front of you, you take and open up, you spread out the entire pack, and everybody picks face up, so you know what everybody's picking.
Yeah.
So it works kind of in this way, where you have 20 stacks of 4. You flip up the 4 tiles. And then I take one and discard one, and then Froese takes one and then discards one.
Yeah, and then you go back and forth, and then in between you lay your tiles, and then the next turn you flip up 2 stacks, so you've got 8 tiles in front of you, 2 separate stacks. The first player picks one from one of the two stacks and then discards one, and then when those are gone, you lay your tiles down. All in all, again, I was really skeptical when we first started playing this, but then as we started playing it, I had a lot of fun with it.
I rather enjoyed the game. I'm very much a sucker for draft games, especially there's a lot of variations in how you play this game, which can actually add to the longevity of the game itself.
Yes. And I will say that a lot of times when you get Kickstarter exclusive stuff, especially with games like this, a lot of it is what I would refer to as fluff.
Very much
extra art stuff and stuff like that. And we didn't play with the Kickstarter stuff because we wanted to just get the base game down and learn the game and stuff like that. But once we knew how to play the game, we looked at the Kickstarter stuff. And it's actually, the Kickstarter stuff in here is actually really cool.
It does add definitely a couple extra nuances to the game by... It gives you a special lava tile that's not worth anything by default. However, it has every single crystal pattern on it, so it could essentially be played next to anything and connect, and has your blue diamonds, your green diamonds, and your red diamonds on it.
Yes, it is important to note because it's just a little blurb in the rulebook. If you get the Kickstarter version of this, if you're going to put the Kickstarter stuff in the game, you have to remove non-Kickstarter stuff from the game.
When you play with 2 players, it very specifically says you need this many tiles.
Right.
And then from 3 to 6, you need this many tiles.
Right. So you just want to make sure you pay attention to, because the game is set in a very specific way and a very specific amount of tiles are used in the game to keep the game balanced. So if you're putting in Kickstarter tiles, you're going to take out normal tiles, and you have to make sure that if you're playing with less than 5 people, you take out all of the 5+ tiles, which, by the way, are in very small print on the back of the tiles. It says 5+. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out where that was, which might speak to my intelligence, or it might speak to the fact that it's in very small lettering.
All right. All right, so let's go and talk about a couple of the pros of the game that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back with maybe a couple of things they can improve upon.
Yes. Pros, I really like just the overall, the drafting style of the game. I like the variety that the game provides as far as strategy-wise goes. It's not just a straight, sometimes when games like this come out, there's very clear 1 or 2 winnable strategies, and it's like, I'm going to go to Machi Koro.
Yes.
Because there's, in Machi Koro, there's a couple of winnable strategies that you can just go to, and there's nothing anybody can really do about it. But it seems like in this, there's a very large variety of strategies.
Right. I really like the fact that it's both a tile placement game and a tile drafting game. Yes. It adds 2 mechanics in games I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, I would say one of the other things I really like about it is the quality of the tiles themselves.
They're good thick tiles.
They're good thick tiles. It's kind of a pain because at the initial setup, it's a lot of popping out, but it's not that cheap, flimsy cardboard-ish. It's a nice thicker quality tile. Right. So I think that even through a lot of play, it'll
I will say at worst some of the edges will round.
Probably.
But I don't foresee any splitting occurring, which we've run into some other games, or them just kind of even falling apart. It's definitely good quality.
Yeah, I think all the components in there would be
The other thing I want to highlight about the game is the art. I love the little monsters in it, and you can evolve monsters, and there's mutations, and so they get bigger and nastier looking, and it's just a very cutesy...
It's kid-friendly, too, I think.
Cutesy, fun type monster art, and I thought it was very enjoyable.
Absolutely. Cons for me, if you watch any of our videos, there's no insert in this box. And it could have used an insert. They give you some plastic bags, which, in my opinion, they could have given you 2 more to hold everything. The way I wanted when I was packing it back up to sort everything out, I could have used 2 more plastic bags. But the game has no insert, so for me, that's a huge thing. I think the game should have inserts.
I definitely foresee us making an insert for this game.
Yeah, of some kind.
Out of like the foam, or there's that really thin wood that Broken Token uses. I foresee us probably doing something like that if we continue playing this game.
Like, I get it. It would have been hard because the way the box came, right? The box is literally just stacked from top to bottom with stacks of Punch Out.
The box would have to be so much higher to make it fit.
To then get an insert in there.
Or you have to ship the inserts separately, which then is added cost. So, we get it. I definitely think an aftermarket insert is going to be very beneficial for this game. Not necessary, but beneficial.
Because there's 100 and some tiles in here,
It's a lot of tiles.
And the bags are not very big.
Why don't we just... it's just bags of bags of tiles. There's just physically a lot.
Yeah, it's just a lot of tiles, and it's just in bags and stuff. I will say, I'm a sucker for a not square board that's got a cool little round board. I don't know. So that's probably my biggest con is when it comes to components and stuff. Is just that. I will say the other probably con for me is that since my wife wasn't here when we were learning this game, she normally takes control of the rules. The rule book probably could have been a little bit better for me anyways.
Writing rules is probably one of the more hard jobs in game design, just because each person interprets rules differently, each person learns differently. I'm more of a visual learner. I learn better by just watching a video, seeing someone how to actually physically show me what I need to do to play a game, rather than pick up a book of 15 to 50 pages, depending on the complexity of the game, and I get lost.
Yeah, yeah, the 2-player section of this was a little convoluted. I wish there was a few more visual aids in the rule book as far as showing the setup and stuff like that. Probably would have helped out. But in the end, again, we say this about a lot of our games. If you watch our videos, it feels overwhelming, and then when you start playing the game, it really starts to flow, I feel. After
we took our first 2 rounds of our game, we played it through it until the end and scored.
We just started going.
Right. That's one of the major differences as far as a 2-player game versus the 3 and up is there would be. So we had I think 10 rounds essentially, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in a normal 3+ game, it's going to be only 2 rounds.
Two rounds. You're going to draft 9 times.
So you can almost refer to it if in Magic terms, there's 2 packs.
Yeah, there's essentially 2 packs.
Because each round you draft a card, draft a tile, you put it down, pass it, and then everybody plays that tile, and then you repeat that till that pack is gone.
Yeah.
So
I will say that to score, you're going to need a pencil or something. They don't.
And potentially a calculator, just because there's a lot of different scoring levels on that pad, and it just.
Yeah.
It's more than my little brain can handle.
Yes.
Mental math wise.
Yes. Overall score wise, what would you do for this?
I rather enjoy the game. I'm gonna give it an Amish, which is a 6 out of 7.
Yeah, I would. I enjoyed it a lot too. I would give it an Amish. However, I'm gonna go 1 down and go Manly 5 out of 7, just because there's no kind of it just bothers me so much when there's no kind of insert and I've got to just throw loose pieces around in a box, and when when it just. I hope that audio picks up on the video, but when it's just loose in there, that just bothers me a lot. But again, that's purely for that reason. Other than that, I love this game. I can't wait to get it back on the table with more people and different people and see what they think about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in playing both a 6-player skirmish, which sounds like it'd be
awesome,
pretty cutthroat, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too.
And then playing in teams, it's a very, very different aspect to the game.
I still think if we play in teams, I would rather add our scores together versus taking the lowest score.
Right. I mean, I would say it's probably going to be a little bit more fair that way.
Because I just, like, if one person gets screwed over, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe if you guys play this, or if you guys have any thoughts on that, or, you know, can think of a reason why they would do that in a team mentality there. I just don't get why it would be the lowest player. Why you would go with the lowest score? Because if you're because it plays up to 6, so you could technically do 2
Well, you
3.
couldn't do the highest score because then the other player could just take all.
Well, yeah, you could have one just run away
essentially
player.
Tank it, right? So I understand that, but having the lowest score, I mean, I understand as strong as your weakest player is kind of, I think, how it's being approached.
I guess, maybe. I don't know. Shoot us leave us a note in the comments if you guys got any ideas on that. Check it out. We'll probably put up a couple of how-to play videos. Probably do a 2-player video, and then I might do another video on just the skirmish mode as well, general video as well.
And I think with this one, since it's a more quote-unquote simpler game, we may even try to do a legitimate full-play game record of it.
Yeah, that'd be cool, just like some raw record footage of it. That'd be cool. Yeah, so go ahead and like the video and leave us a comment. Check out our other videos. We're on social media as well, I hear. I don't mess with that stuff so much. LinkedIn and...
Not LinkedIn.
MySpace, right? No?
Yeah, Tom's our friend on MySpace.
Tom's our friend.
Yes.
He's our only friend. He'll play games with us.
A little creepy.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Have a good night.